I've spent the better part of a century watching smart people do stupid things with money. That's not cynicism, it's observation. Here's the paradox. Most active money managers can't beat a mindless index fund. Imagine that, people with MBAs, research teams, and Bloomberg terminals getting outperformed by a basket of stocks managed by nobody. It sounds like a joke, but it's not, it's reality. Now, why is this? Because competition in money management is brutal. Everyone's trying to be smarter than the next guy. And when you have 1,000 people fighting for a dime on the sidewalk, the guy who bends down usually gets kicked in the teeth. The average money manager promises outperformance, but they deliver fees. They live off the idea that you, the investor, are dumb enough to believe they can consistently beat the market. Some do for a while. Most don't. And none can forever. I've seen this movie 100 times. First, a manager beats the market for 3 years. People call him a genius. Money floods in. Then the law of averages kicks him in the teeth. Suddenly, he's not a genius. He's unemployed. Meanwhile, the quiet fellow who bought the S&P 500 index and went fishing did better. No stress, no crystal ball, just discipline. That's the funny part. People would rather believe in talent than in math. They want to believe someone has a secret sauce. But there is no sauce. There's just reality. After cost, most active managers underperform. It reminds me of the casino. The house always wins because of the rake. In investing, the rake is the management fee. The managers are the house. The investors are the gamblers. The index fund removes the rake. Suddenly, the odds are in your favor. This is so obvious, it's almost embarrassing to explain. But human beings hate obvious. They crave complexity. They love the idea of special access, hot tips, clever strategies. That's how Wall Street keeps the lights on. In the year 2020, I said what I'd said for decades. Most people should just use index funds. And I meant it. The data is overwhelming. It's not an opinion, it's arithmetic. But here's the rub. Telling people to buy index funds doesn't make you popular on Wall Street. It's like telling a barber that people look better with short hair, he loses business. The financial industry thrives on activity. Index funds thrive on inactivity. One feeds on your impatience, the other rewards your patience. Which side do you think the salesmen are on? I don't dislike active managers. Some are bright, disciplined, and useful. But as a group, they're not worth their keep. They're the modern snake oil salesman, only with better suits. So the joke's on Wall Street, and the punchline is this. If you can't resist the itch to tinker, you'll probably underperform a brain-dead index. The real skill isn't picking stocks, it's sitting still. Patience beats brilliance. Inactivity beats hyperactivity. But human beings are wired to do the opposite. They chase, they trade, they panic, and then they complain when the quiet man with the index fund retires rich. So let me open this discussion with a question. If the evidence is clear, why do so many still believe in money managers? The answer, of course, says more about human psychology than about finance. And psychology, our built-in stupidity, is what keeps this whole circus running. Of all the stupid habits that ruin investors, envy is the king of them all. It's the only one that gives you no benefit, only misery. Think about it. Gluttony, at least you get a good meal. Lust, at least there's pleasure in the act. Even greed can motivate you to build something. But envy, all it does is rot you from the inside. I've watched envy destroy more people than bad luck ever did. It's why your neighbor buys a BMW he can't afford. It's why bright kids on Wall Street burn themselves out chasing bonuses. It's why investors dump a perfectly good index fund because some genius manager posted better numbers last quarter. They can't stand the thought of someone else getting ahead. Let me tell you a story. In the late 1990s, I knew a man who had what most would call financial security, a paid-off house, a healthy retirement account, a decent portfolio of index funds, But he had one problem, his brother-in-law. That brother-in-law bought into dot-com stocks early. He was bragging at Thanksgiving dinners, showing off new gadgets, buying a boat. Our man couldn't take it. He abandoned his index funds, threw money at tech IPOs, and within 2 years he'd lost half his savings. The brother-in-law lost money too, of course, but by then the damage was done. One man's envy had destroyed years of careful compounding. This is what I mean when I call envy the dumbest sin. It pushes you to act against your own interests just to chase someone else's mirage. In investing, envy often hides behind a different word, performance chasing. You see a fund manager outperform for a year, and you convince yourself he'll do it forever. So you dump your steady index fund and run after him. Then he stumbles, you lose, and you've just paid a high price for envy. The irony is that avoiding envy is easy, but people refuse to do it. All it takes is to stop comparing yourself to idiots. If someone else is making money faster than you, good for them. Chances are they'll lose it just as fast. I've seen fortunes built slowly and destroyed quickly. I've also seen modest compounding turn into massive wealth, simply because the person refused to play the envy game. Look at Buffett and me. We never tried to be the richest. We just wanted to be rational. That's why we didn't fall for dot-com mania. That's why we didn't blow up in the housing bubble. And that's why we ended up with more money than we'll ever need. Not because we were smarter than everyone else, but because we weren't dumber. If you want to get rich slowly and stay rich, the formula is simple. Buy wisely, sit tight, ignore the noise, and most importantly, don't ruin your life looking over your shoulder at the other guy. Because the truth is, there's always going to be someone richer than you. Even Jeff Bezos wakes up knowing somebody someday will pass him. So what? You don't need to be the richest corpse in the graveyard. You just need to be financially independent, sane, and free from envy. That's the win. The takeaway? If you want misery, start comparing. If you want wealth, stop. It's not complicated. But most people are too busy resenting others to hear it. So here's my blunt conclusion. Envy is the dumbest sin. And if you can't kill it in yourself, you'll never be a good investor. People like to think the path to wealth is a straight line of smart decisions. That's fantasy. The truth is, even the rich make dumb mistakes. I know I made one that cost me a fortune. Now, I don't lose sleep over it. I've always believed regret is a useless emotion. But if my stupidity can save you some money, then it's worth retelling. The mistake was simple. I held on to a stock too long, convinced I was right. It wasn't one of those cigar butt stocks Ben Graham liked, those dying businesses you pick up cheap for a puff or two. No, this was a company with promise. A real business, decent products, enthusiastic management, and I let optimism override my discipline. I told myself, this will turn around. I told myself, the market doesn't understand. I told myself all the little lies that investors whisper when they don't want to face reality. By the time the dust settled, I was poorer by millions. The lesson? Don't argue with reality. The market can stay stubborn longer than you can stay solvent. I've spent my career saying that avoiding stupidity is easier than chasing brilliance. This mistake was proof. I wasn't trying to be brilliant. I was trying not to admit stupidity. And here's the funny part. I could afford the loss. I wasn't ruined. But what annoyed me wasn't the money, it was the fact that I violated my own rule. The rule of rationality, the rule of cutting off your mistakes early instead of marrying them. Most investors do the same thing. They treat stocks like children. They believe in them. They defend them. That's foolish. A stock is not your child. A stock is a piece of a business. If it's a lousy business, sell it and move on. Buffett and I have always admitted mistakes. You can't survive in this game otherwise. When we bought Dexter's shoe and paid with Berkshire stock, that was $1 billion error. Did it hurt? Sure. But we said it plainly. We were wrong. The problem is, most people don't have the stomach for that. They'd rather cling to the illusion of being right. That's how small losses turn into disasters. If I had to summarize the mistake in one sentence, it would be this: I let emotion whisper louder than logic. And in investing, that's poison. It's not the first time I've been wrong, and it won't be the last. But what kept me alive financially wasn't being right all the time. It was making sure the mistakes weren't fatal. That's the whole game. Not brilliance, not genius, just surviving your own stupidity long enough to let compounding work. If you're young, you should memorize that. If you're old, you should tattoo it on your brain. I lost millions on that deal. But the real loss would have been if I didn't learn the lesson. And the lesson is this: the world doesn't care about your opinions. It doesn't care how much you believe in your investment. The world runs on reality, not your ego. So the next time you catch yourself defending a bad decision, stop and ask, am I being rational or just stubborn? That question has saved me more money than any stock tip ever could. Human beings are wired to think they're smarter than they are. It's not just investors, it's everyone. Ask a room full of people if they're above average drivers. 90% will raise their hands. That tells you all you need to know about human self-delusion. In investing, this overconfidence is lethal. Everyone thinks they can outsmart the market. Everyone thinks they have an edge. And almost everyone is wrong. I've sat in boardrooms where very intelligent people were absolutely certain about things that later turned out to be dead wrong. That's the danger. Confidence is cheap. Reality is expensive. Buffett and I built Berkshire on the opposite principle. We assumed we weren't that smart. We assumed our knowledge was limited, so we avoided areas we didn't understand. That's why we stayed away from technology for decades. Not because we hated it, but because we admitted we didn't get it. That humility saved us billions when the dot-com bubble burst at the start of the 2000s. Contrast that with the people who dove headfirst into every shiny IPO. They thought they were geniuses. They found out they were just gamblers. Here's the truth. The world is too complicated for anyone to know everything. But most people refuse to admit it. They cling to their opinions as if being wrong would kill them. It reminds me of pilots. The good ones know their limitations. They use checklists, instruments, training. The arrogant ones crash. Investing is the same. The best investors aren't the cocky ones with perfect predictions. They're the cautious ones who admit ignorance and manage risk. I've always said, it's better to be roughly right than precisely wrong. That's another way of saying, don't worship your own opinion. Test it, question it, be willing to change it. The financial world is full of overconfident people. Wall Street sells them as experts. The media promotes them as visionaries. And the public eats it up. But when the tide goes out, as Buffett says, you see who's been swimming naked, and most of them are stark naked. Overconfidence shows up in other ways too. It's why small investors trade too much. They think they can time the market. They think they can outguess billions of other participants. It's absurd, but they believe it. That's why brokers love them. Activity generates commissions. The investor's overconfidence feeds the broker's income. Meanwhile, the quiet index investor who admits he has no edge does better. He isn't trying to outguess anyone. He's just letting capitalism and compounding do the work. So why don't more people do it? Because humility is boring. Admitting ignorance doesn't sell books or land you on CNBC, but it does make you rich over a lifetime. I've seen overconfidence wipe out fortunes, careers, even whole industries. And I've seen humility build quiet, lasting wealth. If you want to survive in investing, here's my advice. Cut your opinions in half. Double your patience. And remember, the world doesn't care how sure you feel. Your opinion doesn't pay the bills. Reality does. One of the biggest divides I've seen in business is between people who treat their work like a career and people who treat it like ownership. The difference explains a lot of stupidity in investing and management. Careerism is about survival. You climb the ladder, polish your resume, avoid blame, and never rock the boat too hard. That's how most professionals think. Lawyers, consultants, and yes, fund managers. Ownership thinking is different. It's about results. If you own the business, you can't hide behind memos and committees. You either make money or you don't. When Buffett and I ran Berkshire, we didn't care about looking smart in the short term. We cared about compounding long-term results. That's ownership. Compare that to the average fund manager. He doesn't own the fund. He rents it. His job is to look good enough each quarter not to get fired. That means he hugs the benchmark, talks a good game, and prays the market doesn't expose him. That's why most managers don't beat the index. They aren't trying to maximize wealth. They're trying to minimize career risk. This is the iron rule of bureaucracy. People act to protect their own jobs, not to achieve the mission. And that explains half the stupidity in finance, government, and corporate America. I'll give you an example. Back in the 1970s, there were managers who could have bought great companies for a song, but they didn't because the stocks were too far from the index. If they bought and the stocks dropped, they'd look reckless. If they missed and the stocks soared, they'd still keep their jobs because everyone else missed too. That's careerism. It's safer to fail conventionally than to succeed unconventionally. Buffett and I never had that problem. We owned Berkshire. If we failed, we paid the price. If we succeeded, we reaped the rewards. That clarity makes decision-making easier. When you think like an owner, you cut the nonsense. You don't need a committee to tell you that paying high fees to an active manager is dumb. You just do the math and fire him. Owners focus on results, not appearances. That's why index funds are so powerful. They align more with ownership thinking. You're not paying someone to polish a resume. You're capturing the returns of capitalism itself. Most people never escape careerist thinking. They spend decades protecting jobs they don't love, buying stocks they don't understand, and defending decisions they don't believe in. It's no way to build wealth or a life. I'm not saying careerism is evil. It's just limited. If you want security, careerism works. If you want independence, ownership is the only path. So here's the blunt truth. The world is full of careerists. That's why true ownership thinking stands out. It's rare and it wins. Ask yourself, are you managing your money like a careerist afraid to look different? Or like an owner focused only on rational results? That answer will tell you a lot about where you'll end up. I was born in 1924. By the time I was old enough to notice the world, the Great Depression had already left scars on everyone around me. Those scars shaped how I think about money and how I think about life. People today can't imagine what it was like. Banks failing, families losing everything, men standing in bread lines, women stretching every nickel to feed children. There was no safety net. If you fell, you stayed down. That environment teaches lessons no textbook can. The first lesson, debt is dangerous. In good times, debt feels harmless. In bad times, it crushes you. I saw men lose their homes, not because they were lazy, but because they borrowed when they shouldn't have. I never forgot that. That's why I avoided debt all my life. The second lesson, resilience matters more than brilliance. Plenty of smart people went broke in the Depression. The ones who survived weren't always the brightest, they were the toughest. They adapted, they cut costs, they endured. That's the real skill in life and investing, surviving long enough to see better days. The third lesson, cash is king when the world is burning. In 1929, people laughed at those who held cash. In 1930, they weren't laughing anymore. The man with cash could buy assets at pennies on the dollar. The man without it was begging for credit that no one would give him. That principle never changes. Even in 2008, during the financial crisis, the pattern repeated. Those with cash survived and thrived. Those with leverage got slaughtered. The Depression also cured me of any romantic notions about the economy. Markets don't care about fairness. They don't care about your plans. They swing from mania to despair, and they drag people with them. The only defense is discipline. Buffett and I always kept those lessons close. It's why Berkshire kept a fortress balance sheet. It's why we avoided over-leveraged businesses. It's why we could act boldly when others froze. People think we were geniuses. No, we were survivors of a generation that learned not to be stupid. Let me tell you one more thing. The Depression made people grateful for simple stability. A steady job, a modest home, food on the table. That attitude is almost extinct today. Now, everyone feels entitled to comfort, growth, and security. But the truth is, security doesn't exist, only resilience does. When you've seen real poverty, you understand that envy and greed are luxuries. The Depression stripped those illusions away. That's why I call envy the dumbest sin. You can't afford it when survival is at stake. So, what's the modern investor's takeaway? Don't get seduced by leverage. Don't assume good times will last forever. And for God's sake, keep enough cash to sleep at night. The Great Depression taught me a simple truth. The world can collapse around you, but if you avoid stupidity and keep your wits, you'll come out stronger on the other side. It wasn't fun living through it, but the lessons were worth more than 100 economics degrees. If you want to know my real secret to survival, it wasn't brilliance. It was avoiding three things: debt, drama, and dumb people. Let's start with debt. I've said it 1,000 times. Debt ruins more lives than stupidity ever could. It looks harmless when you're young. Little credit card here, a car loan there, a mortgage bigger than you can handle. But when the world turns against you, debt doesn't forgive. It collects. I saw that in the Depression. Families destroyed, not because they didn't work hard, but because they borrowed in good times and couldn't pay in bad times. That memory never left me. So I lived my whole life with the rule: if you don't need it, don't borrow for it. Now, drama. Life is hard enough without manufacturing extra misery. I never cared for people who thrive on conflict, gossip, or theatrics. They waste your time, your energy, and your sanity. I chose my circle carefully. Partners like Buffett, rational, disciplined, no drama. Friends who didn't need constant babysitting. Colleagues who could focus on results, not egos. Cutting drama out of your life is like cutting sugar out of your diet. At first you miss the taste, but soon you realize you're healthier, stronger, and more clear-headed without it. Finally, dumb people. This one is delicate, but I'll be blunt. Stupidity is contagious. Spend enough time with fools and you'll end up one of them. That's why I've always said, if you're in a poker game and you don't know who the patsy is, you're the patsy. I avoided dumb people the way you'd avoid contagious disease. No partnerships with the undisciplined. No deals with the reckless. No long conversations with people who confused luck with skill. Some thought I was harsh, but I wasn't trying to be popular. I was trying to survive. Avoiding debt kept me solvent. Avoiding drama kept me sane. Avoiding dumb people kept me from being dragged into disasters that weren't mine. Add all that up, and you have a strategy more powerful than chasing brilliance. Because the truth is, you don't have to be smart to get rich. You just have to consistently avoid being stupid. That's why index investing works. It's not genius, it's the systematic avoidance of stupidity. No bad managers, no panic trades, no high fees, just steady participation in capitalism's growth. Most people won't follow this advice, of course. They love debt, they crave drama, and they tolerate fools. But I'm telling you, if you strip those three out of your life, you'll be ahead of 90% of the world. It's not sexy advice. It won't get you applause at cocktail parties, but it works. So ask yourself, are you carrying debt you don't need? Are you feeding on drama that adds nothing? Are you letting dumb people waste your time and money? If the answer is yes, the solution is simple. Cut it out. all of it. That, more than any clever strategy, is how you survive and thrive. People like to romanticize my partnership with Warren Buffett. They imagine two geniuses sitting in a room, hatching brilliant schemes. The reality was much simpler. Two men avoiding stupidity together. What worked? First, we trusted each other completely. There was no hidden agenda, no jockeying for credit, no second guessing. If Warren made a decision, I backed him. If I had an idea, he listened. That kind of trust is rare, and it saves endless time and energy. Second, we had complementary temperaments. Warren is endlessly patient, happy to read annual reports all day. I'm blunt, more inclined to cut through nonsense quickly. Together we balanced each other. He'd slow me down when I was too harsh, and I'd toughen him up when he was too forgiving. Third, we agreed on principles. We wanted businesses with durable moats. We hated leverage. We believed in patience. When your philosophy matches, you don't waste time fighting over direction. Now, what didn't work? We weren't infallible. We made mistakes, big ones. Dexter shoe, for instance. We paid with Berkshire stock. That turned a bad investment into a catastrophic one. But we admitted the mistake and moved on. That honesty saved us. We also sometimes let opportunities slip. We avoided technology too long. We missed some obvious winners. But again, we survived because we stuck to our circle of competence. Missing a winner hurts less than chasing a loser. Another thing that didn't work, sometimes people assumed we had a magic formula. They wanted tips, secret shortcuts. We had none. We had patience, discipline, and rationality. That was it. But most people don't want to hear that. They want excitement. The partnership worked because we weren't trying to impress anyone. We weren't running around giving forecasts. We weren't worried about quarterly results. We just compounded quietly. What's the lesson here? Find partners who share your values. Find people who make you better, not crazier. And above all, admit mistakes quickly and without ego. The world doesn't need more brilliant loners. It needs more rational partnerships. Warren and I didn't succeed because we were geniuses. We succeeded because we kept each other sane. That's rarer than you think. If you want to replicate our success, don't look for the next Buffett or the next Munger. Look for someone you can trust, argue with honestly, and build with over decades. That's the real moat. And remember, our partnership wasn't perfect, but it worked well enough to turn a failing textile mill into one of the most successful companies in history. Not by magic, not by brilliance, but by avoiding stupidity together. Here's the truth about getting rich that nobody likes to hear. It's boring. There's no drama, no secret formula, no lightning bolt genius. It's just slow, steady compounding over decade. People hate that answer. They want excitement. They want some clever trick that turns $10,000 into $10 million in 5 years. And there's always someone willing to sell them that fantasy. But wealth doesn't work that way. It's arithmetic, not alchemy. You spend less than you earn. You invest the difference rationally. You avoid debt, envy, and stupidity. You wait. Do that for 40 years and the result looks like genius. The surprising part isn't how hard it is, it's how few people have the discipline to actually do it. Most people sabotage themselves. They trade too much. They borrow too much. They believe too much in their own cleverness. And they envy others too much to stick with a boring path. Look at Buffett and me. We didn't try to get rich quick. We didn't even set out to be billionaires. We just kept doing sensible things for a very long time. Eventually, the snowball grew. I've said it before. The first 100,000 is A, B. After that, compounding starts to work in your favor. But most people never get past the first stage. They give up, they get impatient. They go chasing something flashier, and that impatience kills them. Getting rich slowly feels unsatisfying in the short term. You don't get to brag at cocktail parties. You don't get to show off the next hot stock pick. You just sit there, quietly compounding. But then, one day, you wake up and realize you've overshot. You don't just have enough, you have far more than you'll ever spend. That's the surprising truth. I never planned to be this rich. I just avoided stupidity long enough for compounding to make the decision for me. If you want to play the game differently, go ahead. Chase tips, trade options, worship the next guru. But understand you're betting against math, psychology, and history. That's not a good set of odds. The real path is simple. Not easy, but simple. Live below your means. Avoid big mistakes. Stay patient. It won't make you the life of the party, but it will make you financially independent. And independence, not riches, is the real prize. Because once you're independent, nobody can tell you what to do. Not your boss, not Wall Street, not the government. That's worth more than any trophy, yacht, or status symbol. So if you want the truth about getting rich, here it is. Stop looking for brilliance. Start looking for endurance. And remember, the world is full of people trying to look rich. Very few have the patience to actually be rich.
I never set out to be a billionaire. That wasn't the plan. In fact, there was no plan, at least not the kind people imagine. I wasn't chasing yachts, mansions, or magazine covers. I was chasing rationality. Day after day, year after year, just trying to avoid being stupid. And here's the funny part. By focusing on what not to do, I overshot. Way past enough. Way past what I ever thought possible for a kid from Omaha who grew up in the shadow of the Depression. That's the irony of wealth. The best way to get it is not to aim for it directly. Aim for good habits. Aim for patience. Aim for independence of mind. Wealth shows up as a byproduct. People ask me, what's the secret? There isn't one. There's just arithmetic, discipline, and time. Most people want magic instead. And that's why most people fail. I've said this before, all I wanted was independence. To be free from bosses I didn't respect, free from creditors I didn't owe, free from the drama of dumb people. Money was just the tool. Now, looking back, the overshoot is almost comical. I ended up far richer than I needed, simply because I avoided the mistakes that sink most people. It's not a story about genius. It's a story about survival. And survival, stretched out long enough, looks like brilliance. So, what should you take away from all this? Not that you should try to copy me or Buffett step for step, but that you should build a system where you don't need brilliance at all. Where avoiding debt, envy, drama, and dumb people is enough. Where index funds do the heavy lifting. Where patience makes up for the lack of genius. If you can do that, you'll get further than you think. Maybe you'll even overshoot. And if you don't, well, if you're living below your means, avoiding stupidity and building independence, you'll still be better off than 90% of people. That's the real prize. Not being the richest corpse in the cemetery, not beating your neighbor, just reaching the point where nobody can tell you what to do. So let me leave you with one blunt thought. If you're not spending less than you earn, if you're not investing in a way that makes sense, if you're not cutting out the stupidity, then I can't help you. Nobody can. But if you are, then compounding will do the rest. And one day you might look back and laugh at how far you've overshot without ever planning to.